What's up, guys? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the C Squared podcast, episode 22, with myself, Christian Kirilla, and Fabiano Caruana. We have an exciting episode for you today, packed with guests, packed with stories, packed with news, and everything in between. So let's get straight into it. Fabi, good to see you, man. Where are you?
Yeah, how's it going? I'm in Spain, back in Spain, just relaxing for a few days before work gets started again. Uh, and yeah, we just finished the tournament, so we both traveled away from Netherlands. I guess that
Yep.
was a tough tournament.
Yep. Long, tough tournament. Tata Steel always at the end of it. I would assume, or at least maybe you can tell me about it. What is your general recovery routine after the tournament? Because this one is a long one. 13 rounds in the cold, lots of wind all throughout the event, so it can definitely take a toll on you.
Yeah, that ties into something that we posted recently on we posted this clip, right? About losing weight during tournaments, and specifically during the match in 2018
Yep.
when we were speaking with Alexandra and Andre Botes, and that got a bit of pushback. Some people said like this doesn't happen. You don't lose a ton of weight playing chess, but it does. Like these tournaments can take a mental and physical toll on you, especially long classical events. I mean, rapid and blitz, those are not as stressful. I don't think they take up as much time or energy throughout the day, right? Like the games are not as long usually. But these long classical tournaments definitely very, very taxing.
Also, it feels like for those Rapid and Blitz games, you don't have that much pressure on yourself. You don't have that much time before the game actually starts to just go through all the possible scenarios in your mind, stress about it, worry about what you're going to play, what your opponent is going to play. You just go there and just play the game, and that feels way less taxing on yourself. Is that how you feel as well?
Yeah, I think that the main reason classical chess is very tiring, and much more so than rapid and blitz, and why even like let's say Magnus expressed his sentiment recently. He said after Wijk that it was a very tough tournament and that he's happy to take a break from classical chess for a while. And I think that a lot of players share that feeling. And the reason is not so much the game, but more so the preparation that goes into the game. And all the players have to do this. No one can survive at the top level without putting serious work into openings and preparation. And that comes with the repeating uh, lines before the game, openings that you plan to play, because nobody's memory is perfect, and even if you commit an opening to memory once, it's going to fade unless you consistently practice it. So that's where the really tiring part comes from. It's not just that you have to put in many hours of work into it every single day, but also that you have to make decisions, and decision making is it takes away your mental energy. So the decisions will be based on openings. How do I want to try to gain an advantage against Anish Giri, for example, with the white pieces? It's very difficult, and it takes research. It takes decision making. Sometimes you change your mind. You know how the process works as well as I do, and so all of that is very energy sapping.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about more in just a second, but in fact, we were discussing at the beginning of the show that we will have guests for this one, virtual guests. We usually have them in person, but this time, unfortunately, we are not in the same place. A lot of people are traveling. Right now, it's more of a transition period. So we do have a couple of guests today, and we're going to start with one player that actually made quite a big splash in the Tata Steel. That was, Jorden van Foreest, who pretty much by himself in the last round more or less decided the fate and the outcome of the tournament. But let's just get him in. Let's see. Jordan, good to see you, man. It hasn't been a while. We actually just saw each other at Tata Steel. Welcome to the show. Welcome to C Squared. Tell us a little bit about the last few days after the last round at Tata Steel. You were mentioning I think before you played Anish, that was before the penultimate round, that you're looking forward to play the spoilers role in the tournament, and that's actually what you did. You changed the outcome pretty much of the tournament. How have the last few days been for you?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm happy to be here on the podcast. Hi Christian, hi Fabiano. Yeah, so going back to maybe the last few rounds of Wijk and Zee, um, I guess so I really was basically absent the whole tournament. I wasn't really doing anything. I was just like on a big minus score, but at least I know like this tournament um, at the end, you can still give it your all. And I kind of was looking forward to those last two games already for a while because clearly Abdusattorov was very much in the lead and Anish was always trailing behind. So I really didn't have a huge preference for who would win, but I wanted to, at least kind of put on a show for the last two rounds. And of course, it's not all in my hands. For example, when I played Anish in round 12, I believe. I kind of got this idea and the Ragozin on the board, and that was kind of pure chance. I took on d5 on move 3, and he could have, for example, played c6 or any other line after bishop f4. For example, Fabiano played an interesting line against Mamayarov recently, but yeah, somehow I got this kind of dubious idea on the board, and then we got this crazy game, which was fun. And then for the last round, I was like, okay, well. Round 12 was fun. I wasn't feeling too tired though after the round. I think actually playing this long and entertaining game gave me somehow some new energy for the last round as well. And then I was like, okay, maybe Abdusattorov is feeling a little bit nervous. I mean, that wouldn't be surprising to me if you're in the lead at such a big tournament, right? And it's also his first time playing. I mean, he has already won some pretty major events in his career. He has won the Olympiad, the World Rapid, but nevertheless, I think anyone would feel nervous in such a situation. So I wasn't unhappy with the draw, actually. I was considering to play maybe the Berlin defense or whatever. But I thought like let's just see, and if it's a draw, I'm happy. But let's just go for a fight. If I lose, that's also the way it is. But I just wanted to have a fun game, and I think it ended to be good for me, of course. Um, but to be honest, I don't think he was playing for a draw or anything. He was making some very risky decisions, trying to win as well. So that's why we got kind of a fun game. And then after the tournament, I just had a few holidays in Amsterdam, actually. So that's about it for me, basically. Um,
Speaking about the game against Abdusattorov, when did you start to feel like you might have some winning chances? Because you were a little bit worse out of the opening, let's say, but when did you start to get optimistic?
yeah, well, in this end game, I would say that if White wants to play it safe, they should very easily be able to do so. I played like he had a pawn on g4 and had a pawn on h5, and he could basically trade on h5 whenever he wanted to. But at some point, he decided to make a very risky decision, advancing his pawn to g5. And maybe objectively, he had some moments there to be better and stuff, but it wasn't easy to prove. And at least, like long term speaking, I felt like things could go in my way. And then at some point, I spotted this very nice move, bishop c8, and I was kind of worried that maybe I missed something. But I thought if I don't miss something positionally, I'm doing very well because he has, two pawns hanging on e5 and g5, and I didn't think yet about winning the game there, but I thought like if he doesn't find anything right now, I could easily take over. So maybe around then, and then I think he made one more very strange move. At some point, I played the move b4, and I still wasn't hoping for too much. And he should have just traded the pawns there, but he went a4, and then I kind of immediately realized, well, he has no active moves. His pawns are weak. I'm not sure if I'm winning, but practically it looks really difficult already for white. So maybe there were a couple of moves, but maybe after bishop c8, I felt like there's some potential at least in my position, and I felt I should be winning just like when the time control was reached, actually.
Do you
Yeah,
think
I
that he
actually
saw Anish's game
go ahead,
and
Fabi.
he got a bit nervous that maybe Anish is going to win and he wants to avoid a playoff? And that's
Um,
why he maybe got a bit unobjective.
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Anish won so surprisingly as well. I think that must have upset him because Rapport was seemingly doing quite all right, I guess. Then this move King G6 came, maybe that upset him. I don't really remember when at which point which events took place, like when he, for example, made those risky decisions that Anish already won. I don't quite remember that, but it definitely must have felt or added some pressure on him. So, and I have to say, like at some point, the position was just really hard to play. Like there was just no way back anymore, and we were both having to make some difficult decisions. So I think by that point he was just trying to play the position, but it wasn't easy. And of course, having in the back that Anish won his game put extra pressure on him. Well, I was just playing carefree. I didn't really mind too much. I mean, for me there wasn't anything much at stake, I guess. So that definitely must have helped my case, I guess.
What motivates you in those last few rounds? What actually motivated you in those last few rounds to give your all?
Yeah, good question. Well, like I said, I was basically absent from the start of the tournament, and of course, realistically speaking, I should never even have a chance to play for anything much in this tournament. Looking at the field, but I won the event once, and I've done quite well over the last few years. So I always come here with high ambitions. But the start of the event really didn't go my way. With black, I was losing games, making both strategical errors and making tactical blunders. For example, in my game against Fabi. And opening wise with white, I was just getting worse out of the opening. But then somehow I won this game against Arjun, which basically could have gone either way. And as you could see, it really broke his tournament. I mean, he was on -1 at that point, but he had basically lost all his remaining games, maybe with some draws in between. But for me, it gave me some new energy. And then I finally kind of played myself in the tournament. And I said to myself, well, I think that was like round 7 or 8. Let's just treat it as a new tournament. And I think I was already from that. I kind of knew the pairings had. I kind of wanted to show, that I can play some enterprising chess.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of my style. And of course, there's a bit of luck involved, but I think at least in the last round, I made the conscious decision to play the Taimanov, which is not my main repertoire. And against Anish, I found this idea in the morning of the game, actually. And I thought, okay, let's just give it a try. I mean, maybe he will, like, objectively, black is maybe even slightly better, but I was kind of in the mood for a fighting game, and I thought he might do this. So,
It's interesting. It's interesting against Anish that you seem to be a rather difficult opponent for him. Like
yeah,
he's very often struggling, and you've won a number of games, including a tiebreak against him in Vikensay, and also a game in I think the Nimzo, the Samish variation, which was also a very nice game.
yeah, no, that's quite interesting. Somehow, I also beat him in a match in some online event. I don't really know why that is, but somehow some opponents you do quite well against, some others you do less well against. It's very hard. I'm sure you have the same with some other top players, and it's always hard to say why exactly that is. So I'm not sure why Anish is somehow I have a decent score against him. And actually, I think classical we have a 50% score, so it's not like I'm doing super well. But considering the rating advantage he has over me, which is quite significant, of course, I'm not doing badly against him at all. And I'm not sure why that is. Somehow, in the openings, I always seem to get a nice position against him, which is maybe a bit surprising. But yeah, I always seem to get some kind of idea against him, and then the game kind of gets out of control, which I guess plays to my style. So it's a bit weird, but it's a good question. For example, why did Hikaru always have a bad score against Nakamura? I'm sure you have some players where you have really good scores against as well, and maybe the other way around as well. I don't know why exactly.
Yeah, I have to say that I was impressed with how you were also getting very, very good chances from the opening, and maybe not just out preparing, but kind of out thinking him in terms of opening preparation and getting him into the types of positions that he doesn't seem to like. Because I struggle against Anish in the opening to ever make inroads into his when I'm playing with the white pieces, and I'm always either
Right.
slightly worse or equalizing with white. And you came up with this idea in the Rogozin where it's not like white is better, of course, but he was under pressure, and then very soon he already had a losing position.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it helps that I worked with Anish quite a lot in the past. At least I would say we worked a lot from 2019 to 2021. So I kind of know how he looks at openings, and I know maybe which lines he will not expect. Maybe that's seeing too much into it, but um, I guess I kind of know like a little bit where Anish might feel more uncomfortable than others. So that could be it, and that may be due to the fact that we've worked a bit. I know him quite well, I think. So at least so far things have been going well for me. But of course, it could turn around the other way at any moment. But I have to say, I'm always excited to play Anish. It's always maybe it brings out some extra energy in the old Dutch clash. I'm always like.
Actually, let's build on that. How is your relationship in general with Anish? You mentioned you played with, you trained with him for 2 years. You were both on the Dutch national Olympic team, but then you started working with Magnus, and it felt like that iced your relationship a little bit, at least online. Tell us a bit about your relationship with Anish.
Yeah, so I would say that I actually learned a lot from Anish starting 2019. I was never too much into openings, but at some point in early 2019, we had a training camp, and we had a few more after that, and I really learned a lot from him, and I helped him during some candidate tournaments. I don't know if it was the same one, which was split, or if it was two different. I think it was maybe two different ones, but I'm getting the history confused. And then indeed I went over to help Magnus, which I thought for me was a really big opportunity. But of course, it's not easy when you switch to working for one top player to working to another top player. And indeed, we did have some issues after that, as it wasn't so easy to go back to work for Anish, for example. So maybe that did at least complicate our relationship in a way. But okay, time passes, and I think by now actually we're on very friendly terms. I don't think we've ever really been on unfriendly terms, but maybe we just were a little bit more distant for a while. And I think that's normal that it can happen that way. But currently we're not working, but we're talking actually almost daily. So I think we're on very good terms, and we'll see if we'll work together in the future. Currently not, but things can always change.
And I'm sure your final round victory against Abdusattorov probably helped put this relationship back on a positive positive path. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much it actually meant to our relationship, but it was definitely, I guess, a nice, give back after what I did 2 years ago to him, kind of making up for what I did back then. I mean, to be fair, he really should have won that tie break, but Blitz is crazy and things can happen. And I don't, I mean, I didn't do it for him, of course. I did it for myself, but it was a nice way to ensure that he would win the tournament, I guess. But like I said, we were already on friendly terms during the Olympiad. We were already we were on talking terms, so really nothing. I don't think too much has changed due to that game.
Speaking a bit more about your work with Magnus, I think people will be interested to hear a bit about it because you prepared him, or you were part of the team that prepared him for the World Championship match against Jan Nepomniachtchi. And I think you were working with him before as well as during the match. So how was that experience?
Yeah, no, I mean, when I got asked to work for Magnus, it was basically the day the Canada tournament was over. I think maybe when it would be sure that it was Nepo who would challenge for the title instead of Anish, who was actually still in the running, I believe. But then he lost. He lost to Grishuk. I don't know how he did. He lost to
He lost to
Alexei.
Grishuk, yeah. He played a Bogo Indian, I think, and he needed to win that game.
I
And
believe it was round 13, no? Round 14, he lost to
I
Alexei.
think it was the penultimate round, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a crucial game at least. So
Yeah, definitely.
anyway, after that, I got asked, and I have to say immediately, of course, for me, it was very, very exciting to be able to be presented this opportunity, and I really didn't think of it twice. So basically, from that moment onward, of course, it was in the middle of the pandemic, so we started to work online a lot. Of course, in between the tournaments, as for example, Dubo, who was also in the team, was playing quite a bit, and myself too. But in between the tournament, we would have a lot of opening talks online. And then we had two camps. We had one in Lithuania that was, I think, in August, end of August. And actually, Magnus was supposed to come over there, but we all felt quite ill. It wasn't COVID per se, but we decided it would be for the best if he wouldn't pass by. And then we had one in Spain where Magnus did pass by as well. I think both camps were around 2 weeks, something like that. So nothing actually too major if you're thinking about the magnitude of a world championship. match. But as I said, with the schedules, the pandemic, it was really hard to um, arrange everything. And I have to say, I learned really a lot because for me, working with other people, for example, Gustafsson was in the team, Peter Heine, Laurent, and Dubov. Really, I got to interact with a lot of different approaches to chess, and actually, it was more about working with them than maybe working with Magnus, which I was told before the match. Magnus um, um, is not going to be as much involved in the opening work, but I mean, of course, when you work for the World Championship match, at least it learned me to be more self-critical and to be more thorough and all that stuff, which is usually one of my weaknesses. So that was very good, and we went over a lot of openings, and then of course during the match itself, it was quite nerve-wracking at first. Actually, I was working a lot, but then once Magnus won, I think game 6, everyone calmed down quite a bit, and that was nice. But overall, it was really nice experience. I think I really learned a lot. I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon again, seeing that Magnus is not gonna be playing a match. But so in that way, I'm also actually quite fortunate to be able to have had this opportunity, since this is arguably or perhaps his last match. So
How was the feeling after he won game 6? Was the feeling generally that, okay, now that Magnus is in the lead, the match is almost decided? Or was
well,
it still that a comeback could happen at any moment?
yeah, of course we were actually. I have to say that when game 6 finished, I was like fast asleep. I only saw in the morning, and I was sure it was going to be a draw. I went to sleep somewhere in the Queen and against Rook, Knight, 2 pawns stuff, but they played on for many hours after that. So I was like asleep, and I was very surprised when I woke up. He won. At some point, like during that game, I was worried he was going to lose, because there was definitely moments in that game where Naples was perhaps winning as well. But then, yeah, the atmosphere relaxed. I mean, like Magnus basically said in interviews, he felt that the only way someone could beat him in a match is maybe if he would over push. Well, if he were going to be solid, and that's basically what we did after that. And Nepo had to try to beat him. He would actually be able to get chances, and nobody chess-wise can actually outplay him if he wants to be solid. That's kind of what he said. So yeah, like I said, the atmosphere became a lot more relaxed. Of course, we kept on working hard, but really points kept coming in basically every game. So um, the mood kept on improving, of course, and actually the match ended prematurely. So after that, I spent like 1 week in Thailand having holiday. So overall, it was a really nice experience over there.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Magnus only came for the camp in Spain leading up to the World Championship match, and you mentioned that in general he's not that involved with opening work. How does a day in preparation look like when you guys have Magnus alongside you? So let's say, take us through one day in camp in Spain.
Right. Yeah, well, I don't know how much exactly I can reveal, but I can
Of course, without revealing too much, of course.
We definitely try to when Magnus is there, we try to question him on certain openings, which he whether he likes them or not. We have a chessboard present, so we also try to look without the engine, of course, with the human eye. Especially Magnus likes doing that. Um, at the same time, I think that as a team with we are basically just trying to discuss the openings between ourselves, and Magnus might have some input at some points, but he's not always giving that much input. We just try to show him the final product, and then only then we will he'll give his opinion. So that's about it. But the work days are very long, I have to say. Definitely Magnus might show up once or twice, maybe sit there for some hours. We definitely play a lot of blitz as well to keep him sharp, maybe solve some exercises as well. But at the same time, I would say that like basically the 5 of us, Dubov, Jan, Peter, Laurent, and me, we're just sitting there with our laptop on the couch all day. It's not a whole lot of excitement actually going on. We just click buttons, go for meals once or twice a day, and then
Do you guys play a lot of
especially
sports when Magnus is there?
well, when Magnus was there, we definitely played some sports. We played football like 3 times, I believe. We played some padel. Maybe I think he went to swim in the beach in the sea a couple of times. So we don't go for a lot of walks necessarily, but we definitely did some sports. And when, for example, the camp in Lithuania, when it was just us, we were really just sitting on the couch, not doing much. So it's also important. So whenever Magnus feels like we need to do some sports, we basically have no choice but to join. And we also like, sitting on the couch all day is not exactly feeling very good for your body at times. So getting in some physical exercise is definitely nice. But like I said, the process doesn't seem very exciting because you're just sitting all day. But we're definitely discussing a lot of lines and trying to think what could be the best way to approach the match and that kind of stuff.
Last
Who's the
question.
best when it comes to, sorry, just
Go ahead, Fabi.
sneak one question in first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's the best when it comes to sports between the entire team, including Magnus?
Well, I can tell you that for sure I am the worst. We played this game of paddle once. It's also the last time I was allowed to play, I'm pretty sure. At some point we were playing against Peter and Laurent, I think. And then Magnus decided to have me on his team because he liked the challenge of having such a weak player that it would actually be disadvantage to still, try to win the match, I believe. And I was definitely being shouted at a few times for my lack of abilities. So I would say that actually Laurent he's quite good at all kind of. We played some ping pong actually at some point as well. Football he's good. Definitely Magnus is the most driven. However, he really always wants to win. I mean, there's not really revealing any secrets there, but it's true whatever you do. So even if you're just playing a friendly game of paddle or football with the local football players, there's definitely he always wants to win. So I guess it depends a bit on which sport. I feel like, for example, in paddle, probably Laurent was the best, and maybe in football, Magnus, and actually Dubov was also quite good in football. So it's really hard to judge, as being so bad at all these sports myself, to say who's best because I was just trying to find the ball myself, kind of.
Yeah, just to sneak in another question, a final question from our audience. So this one, I'm not 100% sure what the name of the author is, but it goes like this. How do you come up with such wacky prep? What is your process for picking up an opening line?
Yeah, actually becomes more difficult nowadays. Everyone has tried almost all wacky lines. I don't know. I guess I'm very open-minded, and at times it can also backfire because creativity is not always good. But I would say I'm very open-minded. So, for example, more classical chess players would, for example, immediately reject an idea based on how the position looks. Well, I maybe try to look for an upside. I would say I'm a very firm believer in the engine. For example, if an idea looks if the position looks very strange, but and everyone was like, no, I'm not going to play that, I might be like, yeah, but look at the ancient evil. It's not all the bad. There's got to be some upside here. And of course, also being a good chess player helps. You have to kind of know, where to look, what kind of positions there might be a hard idea. That's not, or sorry, a creative, interesting idea. So it's not in every opening that you can have those. But I think one of my biggest assets is just being very open-minded and really trying out every possible move in every possible position, and not letting anything, not immediately giving every idea a chance, I would say. So trying to look at the upsides. For example, this idea I played against Fabiano in Wijk. It looks completely stupid. Maybe I shouldn't have played it, but I couldn't resist the temptation.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's sometimes a fine line between playing something which is risky but has some practical surprise value. But some of these ideas, if they allow your opponent so much choice, then maybe it's also difficult to handle like all the possibilities that you have to analyze yourself.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
oh, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. For example, I used to always like ideas where the opponent has to find only moves. For example, there are many lines, but then if they find all the only moves, probably it's going to be a draw or whatever. But there's also an advantage to playing a line, for example, what against you, where white has maybe like 9-10 interesting moves. And the player has to spend loads of time trying to find or trying to look what direction to play. So that's kind of two different approaches, I would say, and both kind of are interesting. Depends what you're looking for, but yeah, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with giving your opponent a lot of choices, because the only problem is maybe that you have to remember all of them. So having good memory helps, but definitely it's gonna take especially in the classical game, your opponent's gonna have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to approach the position. And we shouldn't forget that if you're still back to good computer analysis, you're usually not going to be completely busted out of the opening, and you might, for example, have a huge time advantage even if you're going to be slightly worse, which is also, worth quite a bit in a long game.
Jorden,
Yeah,
thanks
I
a
have
lot
this.
for. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead, Fabi. We
we can end the chess opening discussion, because I think it will probably go on for a long time if we get into it.
we do have some we do have Anish actually in as a guest as well coming up pretty soon. So I'm sure we'll nevertheless maybe meet in person one of these days, Jorden, to shoot a podcast in person.
Okay.
But I think this is definitely a good start. Thanks a lot, man, for joining us. It was very revealing. I'm sure the audience learned a lot about the process of Jorden van Foreest and how he picks openings, how he works in chess, and pretty much your mentality. So that was very revealing. Thanks a lot for joining, Jorden.
You guys, and hope to see you. Hope to see you soon. Thanks.
We will for sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. All right. Well, that was Jorden. Sorry for cutting you on that last question.
No, it's all right. I mean, I could feel that he was also getting kind of excited about the opening talk, but it would really go on for a long time if we actually got into it.
I know, and we actually have Anish on the line. He just entered the chat, and we will get him in just a second. Actually, without further ado, let's just try to get him in and see where that takes us. Here we go. We see him. There's the man. There's
Hello?
the man. Anish, can you hear us?
Hi, Anish.
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the pod, man.
Thank you, Christian.
Tell us a bit about the last few days. It must have been crazy. That was, let's say, an item off your list of accomplishments that you definitely wanted to see taken care of, winning Tata Steel.
Yeah, no, for sure. And those happened when I kind of, least expected it in a way. But yeah, last couple of days, not so crazy actually. Of course, a couple of interviews had to be given and so on, but kind of business as usual at home. We still got the same kind of commitments in a sense, like still gotta get up, bring my kid to school. Yeah, everything is still the same here.
Wait. You're not getting at least a week off of that?
Christian,
of
you're
your
married as well, yeah? You're married as well.
I'm not married yet.
Not married yet. Okay. Now that explains the stupid question.
Also, I don't have kids, so.
Yeah. No. Of course. I mean, the reason it is now like this because logistically, it's it's much more convenient because I'm driving or school right now is not and the weather is and so on. It's easier to drive it, so it's much better if I bring my kids to school. But yeah, it's a little bit of chess as well still, because you get bored very quickly. So I think kind of the usual days here actually pretty chilled out, I must say. We had one big TV appearance with Jorden. I don't know if you mentioned, but
I saw a tweet about that.
Yeah.
But he didn't mention it. But yeah, it looked like a very big production.
Yeah, it's one of those like talk shows, right? Like you have these talk shows in different countries, like US you have as well, all these daily shows kind of things.
Yeah.
It was one of these big talk shows that invited us together, which was kind of fun. So we did that. That was kind of big, also involved the trip. But other than that, yeah, it was kind of, I guess saw a lot of articles passing by in the media, but I didn't have to contribute much. I was just, just here chilling at home.
Actually, the end of the tournament felt to me a little bit like fate, because first you're playing Jorden, and you get an extremely difficult position at some point, objectively even a losing position. and also you were under pressure from the opening. Yeah, you were surprised and you were lower on time, and you survived that game. And then the next day, everything happened like clockwork. You beat Richie in a must-win game, and also Jorden now took care of the other side of it, beating Abdusattorov with the black pieces, which is rather surprising, at least, because Abdusattorov didn't lose a single game, and suddenly
shocking,
with the white pieces in the last round.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, surprising is an understatement. You know, you're always. I always enjoy watching your podcast because you're always to the point, but you don't like to exaggerate things. So you rather use an understatement than an exaggeration. But it was indeed the shocking turn of events. I have to say, the last 2 days in particular, yeah, that was just a pure luck. In my sort of defense, I had great highlights at the start of the tournament, and I've had many good years in Wijk where clearly, if you call this luck, you should call that bad luck, because exactly the same kind of thing happened, but the reverse. Like there was a year where I was absolutely winning against Firouzja for my standards. Like it was technical also, and usually technical wins is what I convert. And it was more winning, let's say, than our game in candidates, yeah, where I was 5 points up and only one in the end. But it was more winning than that. It was absolutely winning, and somehow he was defending brilliantly, but of course I kept making suboptimal choices and finally I let it slip. And after that game, I still made a draw and still finished shared first, but Jorden won and caught me. And then we had the Armageddon. Armageddon was also crazy. Like that time, it was just, the game was just insane. Like at some point, I didn't realize that there's going to be an increment. I forgot about that. So I was already winning on the board, but I only thought about the clock. And we had like 5 seconds each. And I didn't care about the board, but had I just realized that I just have to make one more move to get to the move 60, I just make a peaceful move, and my position on the board was already winning, and I just needed to not rush it, and then I would win. And by the time like I started playing, like I was playing way too fast, let the advantage on the board slip. Then I realized that okay, wait, I'm not winning on the clock either because the increment is just coming. So that was like an insane year that I didn't win. And I've had many other.
If I remember correctly about that year, also, Jorden only caught you because he won in the last round. Because he completely got his preparation from like move 1 to 25.
Yeah. That was this beautiful Queen D3 Nighter thing where famously Grandelius followed my chessable course. And that was an idea of Jorden that wasn't mentioned in the course, which was like a very dirty idea. The computer says that white is worse, but Jorden went very deep, and it's as if objectively even worse, but it was so hard to play over the board. And Grandelius stumbled. It was like lots of, also the year when I shared first with Magnus. I mean, you probably experienced that a lot as well. Like in Magnus's tournaments, the number of games he wins that are like very drawn at some point, he's grinding them out. And in that year, he was grinding out such drawish endgames. They had this endgame against Matlakov. I don't know if you remember, a theoretical endgame from Taimanov, which is known to lead to
the obstacle bishop endgame, yeah.
And I checked it recently with the new engines, with the Lila engine, yeah. That, I mean, it is as drawn as ever. Like the engine gives it as like absolute draw in any, it's impossible to lose if you look at the engine evaluations and the number of like that can play any move. It will be like between zeros and 002 or something. It's impossible to lose that position. It's just absolute fortress. But Matlakov managed to collapse there in the classical game. And it was very painful because we were going neck and neck, and we both collected 5 wins. And okay, I was sort of often winning faster, and I had to watch this other opponents stumbling, you know, in technical positions time after time. So I was tough. But in this event, in the last 2 days, I have to say I've never been this lucky before. Like it really fell my way like more than ever. Indeed, it was just like a pure coincidence that I managed to win in the end.
Well, and this luck factor is something that, I mean, it's very important for sure, but it does balance out. Like you mentioned, the times that you were unlucky, and when Magnus got some wins that were probably a bit maybe surprising, beating Matlakov, you mentioned. Also, I think the tiebreak was very close. It was, you had an equal endgame in one of these games, and it was.
Yeah, but okay, there I think the the tiebreak first game I was just defending the entire time. And then blitz, it's hard to defend. And second game, I had a huge opportunity, but to just come back and equalize the score. So it's not like, I mean, the tiebreak, okay, let's give him that. He also had a fantastic record at the time. He was winning all the tiebreaks he played. So I was a huge underdog by that point. But I just mean to say that I felt that in many of the Wijk editions, like things were not going that great, and I was even used to that too. So I didn't even expect to win this edition because I've seen it before so many times. I've watched this movie before, and I was thinking it's fine. It's a fine movie. It ends with me winning some rating, and I'm okay. I'll be second, third, whatever, and it'll be fine tournament. I'll continue playing chess, but of course I'm not going to win again because it's how it always ends. So I was not really expecting that very much. Of course, I had to give it a shot because it's your job to give it a shot. Yeah, I wouldn't just try to make a draw in last round with Richard and kill all the chances of winning the tournament on purpose. But like I didn't really expect that things would turn out this way, and especially that Nordebek would lose, because I thought that would be a very quick draw. I thought the game, they would both leave the stage after 5 minutes, and then it would be just us left there.
It felt like there was a bit of provocation with Jorden playing the Taimanov, which maybe he said that he wasn't necessarily trying to win, but at least he was ready for a fight. And maybe Nordebek was also at that point, if he had played a Berlin, maybe he would have thought, okay, let's shut it down. But then he was like, maybe I could win this game and not even risk a tiebreak.
Yeah, it's hard to say. You have many of these people that go for this sensible strategy where they say, if my opponent plays opening like a Berlin or whatever, or I don't know, there are other drawish stuff, yeah, like this open Spanish, even your Spanish that you played, this Bishop C5 Archangel, could also be considered very solid. They will be like, okay, against these openings, I'm going to shut it down. But if my opponent gives me a chance with weird Sicilian, I'm going to play. So this strategy exists. In the last round, I find that to be a very shaky strategy because you mess with your own head a little bit. Like, it's a different mindset. I think you would agree with me as well. It's a different mindset to go to the game with white thinking, okay, I want to keep it safe, or thinking I'm going to go for a win, because it requires an entirely different subsequent play. And so if your mindset is torn in between, like my mindset is to make draw by force against Berlin and to play a sharp game against the Sicilian, I don't know how I would feel weird going into such a game.
Yeah, I read this in a book once, which was more about psychology than chess. But the advice that, I don't know if it's universal advice, I'm sure everyone is different, of course, is that you should generally stick to one strategy. If you want to play for a win, you should play for a win. And if you want to make a draw, you should make a draw. And when you start to mix those things, then it messes with you. If, for example, at some point you need to adjust to making a draw, yeah, and then your entire mindset was that I need to win this game, and it can be difficult to adjust. So it's, of course, it's hard to say what's better for everyone because everyone is different. Some people adjust very easily and some don't. But maybe Abdusattorov was in that kind of both mindsets at once, and he didn't know what he's doing. Is he playing for a win in this game, or is he trying to play solidly?
Yes, maybe he also didn't have the drawing weapon ready for the Taimanov, because you have to realize, especially when you're leading the tournament so confidently, I guess he's the confident kind of player. Like a less confident player would think, okay, what if he plays this opening, that opening? How do I make a draw here? How do I make a draw there? And you try to surround yourself with a very solid. I mean, you probably, I don't know if you, I personally have that experience. I don't know if you do, but like some games, Wesley did it a lot. He has this almost like a draw repertoire with white ready, yeah, like against every sharp Sicilian. Like I was very impressed the last round of candidates, Nepo against Rapport, but Nepo was in a must draw. Yeah. He shut down Rouser so efficiently. I knew that line, but I thought up to the game that, oh yeah, that is the way to shut it down. I appreciated that. It was very stylish. He didn't give him any chance. He forced a slightly better, very slightly better. So in a very prideful way, slightly better. He was moving around the slightly better endgame for a while in the end, waiting for Richard to defend and make a draw. So
Abdusattorov also kind of stirred the game into a slightly better endgame, right? With his queen F3, queen
allows 95
G3.
as well. I mean, it allows 95.
But 95 has some forced lines, right?
It does, but there is even queen F95, queen G3, H5, which is bad, but you have to it's a lot to remember. I don't think I think how I think it was, honestly, what I think happened is Abdusattorov is an E4 player who has a repertoire for the tournament, more or less, against this Sicilian I play this, which is ambitious repertoire. Now, before a game like that, he looked at Jordan's openings and he thought, let's play it safe. So here Berlin, he'll go rook e1, let's say, I imagine, whatever. There's some other Spanish, he will do this, and everything's good. And and when he got Taimanov, which he didn't expect, he didn't have anything ready other than his normal weapon, this is how I don't think he was playing. He wanted to play from it. You know, if he didn't have the drawing weapon ready, he was just going with a proper weapon. This happens to me sometimes as well. I had some games with Magnus where, for example, I wouldn't mind to play it safe, but I didn't think about all the options. And then he plays some opening that I didn't expect. And okay, I know the sort of the more solid option. Let's say he plays the French. I know the ED5 French is to trade the pawns is the most safe one. But I didn't look at it in a while. You know, sometimes if you try to play it safe, you didn't look at the positions, you can even get worse. So that's okay. I'll go for what I go, which is ambitious, but at least I know it. I suspect that was a strategy. I really think that trying to make a draw for Notre Dame in last round was a huge, was a very good thing to do strategy-wise, because then I would have to win, and then still he gets a tiebreak. So I think it's just a very good decision, very good call, and I think he would like to have made that. But I think Jordan's choice, and I have to say also about Jordan's choice, I don't know how Jordan saw it, but I think I know that Jordan, he can play the Berlin. He knows the lines reasonably well. It's not like it's completely out of his comfort zone. So I really think that he refused, let go an opportunity to make a very quick draw with black, which I really admired, because he didn't have that much at stake for himself, and he could just call it a day, have an easy day off with the black pieces, and move on with life. Instead, he went for a Sicilian, where he knew it's going to be a very tough, tense game. And that, that worked out well for me, but I was really appreciating that.
Let's speak about
it seems
that.
Like Jordan is, sorry, Christian.
And Jordan and your relationship with Jordan, because you actually trained with him, and we asked him the same question. I want to hear your perspective as
it's like you know, it's sorry, it reminds me of these police interrogations when they interrogate two people separately and then cross examine.
Exactly. And you guys worked with each other. Then he moved on to Magnus, and you were actually posting, let's say, some cryptic messages on Twitter as well. You didn't take that lightly, I would assume. The fact that, let's say, not necessarily Magnus poked your training partners, but he did go to work with Magnus. That must have felt a bit bitter at the time.
I don't know if Jordan spoke about this at all, this story. I didn't listen to that.
Not in much detail.
Not much detail. Okay, I mean, I'll give a very brief sort of summary from my side, let's say, of what happened. So I was not. It was done sort of reasonably. I mean, the story is very long, but it goes like way back. So I was also approached by Carlsen. I don't know if Fabi ever was approached, but I was invited to.
In 2013, yeah.
You were, yeah. Yeah. So Carlsen has worked with many colleagues briefly, or had some training sessions. So I was approached at various times by him. And every time, for a different reason, I didn't accept the opportunity. Sometimes the scheduling just didn't work out. Sometimes I thought it was not the right moment for me, because I was very close to qualify potentially to the match, and I thought it would be strange to work this closely to that. Somehow I never got to work with him. Then he invited Jordan right after the candidates, which is, when I no longer qualified to the match, which is something that I have no really, I cannot really take part in that decision for Jordan, but understandably he wanted to take it. And he informed me of that. So that was fine. And I was fine with that as well. But we had slightly different vision for what exactly that would entail. So we had agreed sort of that after the match, Jordan will resume working in my team. But the devil was kind of in the detail. So after the match, so until the match, I was really cool with the whole situation, because I thought it's all fine. Because I thought it would be very beneficial for Magnus to have an insider from my team, because I worked with Jordan not only for candidates, but for a couple of years. So he was the person that, like Christian, you probably know what Fabi prepared for each game, right? In Wijk and Zee. So you really are a part of his team. You know what he likes. You know certain things. You know what he feels about certain openings. So there's a lot of inside knowledge that you have.
Especially for a player that you worked for over 2 years, you know them quite personally. Yeah,
you know really well. Where they think lies the potential for White, whether it's in Spanish or the Italian, whether what do you think of some. So there's a lot of information, and I thought that Magnus would really benefit from having Jordan on his team. but I thought that on the other side, after he wins or loses his match, whatever, eventually it will also be beneficial for me to have Jorden work with me again.
Give you some insights about Magnus.
Yeah, and I thought that was part of the deal because I felt that was fair. But I thought that we had agreed to that upfront with Jorden, and we sort of did, but you know, in a very unofficial manner. And anyway, I didn't have a say in what he does, right? Like I didn't have a contract with him signed before. Maybe I should have, I don't know. But like I didn't have a contract that I had only contract like that, you know, he works during these days and the federation pays him whatever for these days. And that's it. I know nothing about how it goes in the future, about any NDA or all of this non-disclosure, nothing.
Right.
I didn't think that would be an issue with people I work with. So anyways, the problem began after. So after that, I was preparing for the World Championship cycle, the Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. And so I had my team and Jorden was going to be back to the team. And after Wijk, we even exchanged a few words. In fact, I lost in Wijk to both Magnus and Jorden, which was kind of unpleasant. I had a decent result, but I lost 2 games to them. But okay, I mean, I lost to Jorden, but nonetheless, we had always very good relations, good collaboration. So I thought, okay, let's invite him back to the team as agreed. He said, yeah, I'll come. I just have to confirm quickly with the Carlsen team here. It'll be fine. Then he says, yeah, you know, I confirmed, but so there's there are conditions under which I have to now work for you, certain conditions. You know, there's certain things I cannot be sharing maybe, you know, like, and I was like, oh, like where did that come from? What kind of conditions? So yeah, there's a list of things, and then I was like, okay, but wait a second, like, whenever I work with someone, I just work with people, you know. So I have to prepare for Grand Prix. Yeah, I'm like, okay, if I want to look at the Berlin endgame, I'm going to look at the Berlin endgame, and I want all my seconds to tell me what they think of the positions, what they think of the lines. I cannot have a guy who will be like, oh, okay, this is a topic I cannot talk about, you know, because that becomes kind of a strange team member. So that was a bit of an issue. And then given the conditions and the situation, I was not able to really work with him anymore, which I thought was a pity for me and for him as well, because of course I was benefiting a lot from our work, but I think so was he, because I have a lot of experience as well, working at the top level. There are certain skills that he has that I don't. There's certain skills that I have that he doesn't. I think I'm more structured in my work, and I think he is much more creative, and he likes structure, and I like sometimes the creativity of his, because his creativity is really beyond that of a normal grandmaster. So I think that was a very unfortunate thing that happened. Okay, since then I had a different team, and I tried to find a way to find the creativity that Jorden had, to find it elsewhere. And I have a team I'm happy with, but it's no longer with Jorden. And Jorden, I think ever since hasn't worked with Carlsen either, which is also unfortunate, because basically, he was kind of left there in the middle. And I think that's also one of the reasons why he struggled a little bit with his results, in fact, because it's good to be part of the group of people that works regularly on chess, because they keep you motivated, right? It's like having a gym buddy. Definitely agree.
And actually, let's build up on that, because you showed up at Tata with quite an unexpected second, Jan Gustafsson, who actually worked with Magnus previously for quite a few number of times and quite a few world championships. How was that? This was the first time. We did talk a little bit in the bus going to Amsterdam. You said that this is the first time that you are working with him. It's kind of a new relationship. How did that play out?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, because chess world is so small that it ended up sort of the way around now. Because essentially there's a very limited group of professional people, that and they often switch. Like Fabiano also knows. I've worked with Chushilov. He's also worked with Chushilov, and we've worked with him at various periods in our careers. He worked with him also more than
even sometimes at the same time.
Well, very much
for a few years, yeah.
Yes, for a few years. At the start, we were working with him at the same time. Then later, I had one comeback with him as well. You also had your comeback quite recently with him, I believe, as well. So this, but that is not. That has a lot of it is to do with the fact that there is a limited number of top professional trainers and people you can work with. And yeah, I saw the opportunity to work with Jan because he's a great guy. He was a Dutch captain as well at some point, the Dutch team captain. I know him for many years, but it was not possible to work with him for me because he was a member of World Championship team preparation, and it wasn't possible to combine that for him with my work. But I saw an opportunity there where when Magnus decided not to play any matches anymore, because I think then sort of that job ended for Jan, and I thought this might be the moment where he could be, you know, open for such a work, and he was, and I think that was that was a good opportunity for me, and I think well, the first result was really good. Like I was, as we mentioned at the start, I was also quite lucky. I'm not sure if that reflects you know, the fruits of our collaboration, because that's really at a very early stage, but I do think it's very interesting for sure. I always like to work with professionals, especially when you work with someone new. Then it's always an interesting new input, right? A little bit fresh, looking at things a little different than you used to look at them. And so I think it's definitely quite useful. And yes, again, it worked out really well, the first tournament we played together.
Yeah, I think it is very interesting to expand your horizons with working with different people, because everyone has a different approach, even in small ways. Some people in very big ways, of course. Like, let's say Jorden is a very creative player. He has a lot of ideas. But even people who seem very similar in terms of their opening preferences and their analytical preferences, they also have their own small ways that they're different. Actually, I thought this was interesting with Carlsen's contract, because you mentioned that you never had like a super specific contractual thing, and I never did either. I never did this, but I know that Magnus was doing this even to the point that, like, let's say I wanted at some point to work with Maxime, and he had already finished working with Magnus. He had worked with him for the 2016 match, I think, against Sergey.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I asked him, like, do you want to work for the 2018? And he was like, well, normally I'd be happy to, but I even have like a contract where even after 1 year of working with Magnus, I can't participate in any preparation against him. And so it's a very smart approach, but I think very few people have tried this.
Yeah, I think it's not that, you know, I think we are a little more amateuristic for two reasons. First of all, yes, he's a world champion, so he has a bigger team. Also, at some point, he had sponsorship from lawyers, I guess, you know, from a company that was a company of lawyers. And I guess maybe they have inspired him, maybe they talked to him, they said, you know, it's a good idea to do, because it's a very professional thing. And I guess that is sort of the right way to go, especially in the Western culture where we do contracts, right? We're not like men of word, and if not, you know, my older brother will stab you. You know how it is, yeah? Like in the good old days somewhere in the mountains. So we are, yeah. I mean, we are not these men of honor kind of stuff. We are like, okay, well, what did exactly you agree? Okay, so this is the clause 2BA and so on. And yeah, again, like I think usually, like, I'm also a little lazy, and you somehow think that, you know, you'll never need these things. Just like you never read the tiebreak regulations, and then when you see them, you're like, what the hell's going on? I have to play now 10 Blitz games in a row, and it's already 11 o'clock in the evening. You just think it's not going to happen, it's not going to matter. But I don't think it's a bad thing of him. I think it's on the people who signed them. I think they could negotiate a bit harder. In fact, even with Jorden, I told him that I think don't sign anything stupid. I said that twice or thrice. Yeah, I think anything stupid has a very vague definition. So I think he did, but maybe he thinks he didn't. But yeah, I think if you deal with someone who deals with contract, okay, before you sign it, you have to negotiate very well, because they will show you these contracts back when these clauses happen. But this approach is very professional, and I think it's not a bad approach for sure.
Yeah, it feels. Go ahead, Fabi.
I was just going to say, speaking of all these stupid tiebreak regulations and blitz regulations that we always fail to check and then regret afterwards, are you going to be playing in the new event tomorrow, which is the big tour?
I had strong doubts already because, of course, after Wijk, you realize you're exhausted, and I have the other tournament coming up, which is also very important. in February, the WR Masters with classical as well. And I already thought that, but then I thought to myself, like, I always try to keep my fighting spirit and my combativity in check, because, I have a tendency to look for comfort. So I thought, okay, I have to man up, and it's just going to be a rapid tournament, and like, why should I, not play it? It's like just going to your laptop and playing the tournament at home. I'm anyway at home, and if I'm not going to play it, I'm probably going to watch it. So it doesn't even cost me time. So I should keep my fighting spirit in check, keep the challenges coming, and play this tournament. But then I heard that it was going to last 5.5 hours. And after 9 games of 10+2, which is a lot, which is the usual but a lot, because usually it's 10+0, and that makes a difference because it's +2, they go forever in the end games. They go forever. So it's going to be longer, but I thought, okay, it was already going to be long. But then I heard that you have to play a 2-game rapid match as well. I don't really know why, but I mean, okay. So I thought, okay, that is maybe too much. Like there is that, it's 5.5 hours. And then of course you qualify and you still have a bunch of days. So I thought just right now, it will all be too much. So I will look forward to watch this great event. And I am almost sure I will play some other leg where there will be no tournament right before and right after. Just right now, like I thought it was going to be easy. I thought I would just come to my laptop and play like the Title Tuesday kind of thing. Because I played Title Tuesday, I played the RCC, I know this. This is kind of okay. You just play and before you know it, it's over. But 5.5 hours, it's a serious challenge. And I think it's
that's true.
Yeah.
I actually wonder how many people who are playing don't really know what they're signing up for.
I was shocked. I mean, we played. I played the tour. I played all of these things. You just it was never this long. It's just very long.
Especially if you add in the tie breaks after that, right? To figure out.
That's the problem. That is the problem.
Is in which
Otherwise,
division,
it will be normal.
more or less. Yeah.
That is the problem. This match is the new thing. Yeah, that nobody. I think they might have added it later. I think it was never. At least
I had no idea that's going to happen. I had no idea.
Never heard
you
of
actually
these matches,
told me about it.
No, I was surprised because I was thinking like Fabi, who else does anyone know what they're gonna play? Like,
a final question for you. It felt from the beginning of this interview that you have a very stoic approach. You just won probably the biggest event of your career. It's a huge result. You've been so close so many times, but never managed to take it over the finish line. Now you did, but you still have a very stoic, very balanced approach. Was that something that you consciously worked on after the event?
I think there are 2 reasons for that, to be honest. So one reason is that even though it's like a huge dream come true thing, you have to realize how many Vacanzes I played and how many emotions I've experienced there. Like I've played 12 this A groups in a row, the Masters so-called now. I've had everything there. I lost there 5 games in a row. I've been close to first so many times. I've been close to first when it was a shocker, with different trainers that all experience different emotions. I've been over I've had it so many times, you can't even imagine. So by now, nothing can sort of top that. I've experienced everything. And this year was a relatively calm one. I was not in the lead so much. I was just playing my tournament there in a quiet way. And somehow the end happened so suddenly, I didn't even have the time to emotionally process it as much. So I'm far too experienced in Wijk to be too excited about any result there. That's one thing. And the other thing is that I think this year is going to be really very challenging for me because I play a lot of classical tournaments and there is this World Championship cycle again opening up now that the match of Nepo against Ding is going to be played. We have the new cycle, we have the Sphere circuit, all kinds of ways to qualify, the World Cup, the Grand Swiss. And I think with all these challenges coming in, I sort of feel that it's maybe not the moment to celebrate, because this is just winning Wijk is really nice, but it's not really, it's not gonna make or break the year in a way or a career or anything. It's just really nice thing, but too many challenges ahead, I think, to indulge into too much emotions. Maybe that's what I feel.
I love it. Yeah. And one final question from our Discord members, actually. What do you think of upcoming Dutch juniors? And do you think the Netherlands could ever become a top 3 nation in the world?
I think there's potential there because we've got chess tradition. With Max Euwe, Jan Timman. Chess is a thing in the country. It used to be at some point a big thing, and we have a big tournament like I can say. We have some infrastructure. There's some chess in schools, not the one like in some Hungary or Armenia where it's like obligatory in schools, but some sort of chess in some sort of schools. A lot of young kids inspired perhaps. So I think there's potential for that. Of course, the challenge that Holland faces as one of the Western European countries is that sort of financially being a strong grandmaster is not a very lucrative career, and just following the normal path, being a good school student and going to university then getting a normal job is also very attractive, which is different in some other countries where the average wage is significantly lower than the income of a grandmaster who plays the Bundesliga, twice a month and brings these euros home and then converts them to whatever currency and feels very rich. So that's the thing that you face in a Western country, that for many talented kids, the parents as well, they think it's maybe safer approach to just go for a normal job and just have a good life and enjoy your grandmaster title or international master title on the side and just enjoy chess, commentate on Wijk 1v1 day, not really go for it. Whether now, so obviously Jorden is already very much matured. Max Warmerdam is also matured a lot, definitely a team member of the national team. Lucas van Foreest also has matured somewhat. The really new generation, the younger players, I've heard a couple of names. In particular, we had these quite known girls, the Jordan's sister, Machteld van Foreest, and Elina Rubers, who started really great in Wijk you had seen, she's beaten some really strong players. Yeah. Yes. And I heard a name, for example, Dutch youngster, I think Arthur de Winter is his name. I think it's very early at this point though, of their career to say what's going to happen. Yeah? It's really early. It's not even clear if they will be professional chess players because they're at the age where they could still choose to enter university, get a normal job again, as I mentioned. So it's hard to say. I can't say I know a lot of Dutch prodigies, but there are some names, and more importantly, in the long term, I think there could be potential because there is some. Holland is not new to chess. We have some history, Holland chess that we share.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Anish. Very revealing. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure we will be able to do this maybe one day in person, and we would love to do that one day in person. But thanks for joining. Congrats once again on winning a huge event, Tata Steel, and good luck in the rest of your tournaments this year.
Thank you, guys. Big honor for me to join the very famous Six-Part
Thank
podcast.
you.
And all the best for your podcast as well. I'm a big fan. I'm actually enjoying it. I think one of my favorite podcasts.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Anish. That was Anish Giri, a very revealing and very personal interview, I have to say. He did tell us a lot of his feelings as well about a lot of hot topics, let's say. What did you think about it, Fabi?
Yeah, he's a very interesting person, very interesting chess player as well. I've been playing with him for so long now because we're very close in age. He's 1994. I'm 1992, so I'm a bit older, but still we intersected quite early in our careers.
Yeah.
I would say we first started to play quite often, let's say around 2010. So it's already been well over a decade that we've been playing a lot. And I know him quite well personally. I mean, not let's say in a very close way, but still when you're around someone for 10 plus years, then you do get to know them a bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if he's really spoken much about the whole thing with Jorden before, but it is.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't think he's talked about it too much, but it's a sensitive subject always when you're talking about people who you've previously worked with, because there's always, when you work with someone, some camaraderie there. And
it's
but
definitely, there's definitely some lines, right? Which it feels like Magnus can control much better with contracts. At least that's what I took away from it.
yeah, well, I mean, Magnus doesn't do this himself. You know, he has a team, and that doesn't just include chess players, the
Yeah.
chess team, but also his management team. So he's definitely outside of the actual management of everything, which is good because then you don't have to deal with, let's say, negotiating money with people who you might be friendly with, right? And that could get in the way of a friendship.
Yeah.
So it's always best to, or at least easiest, I don't know best, but it's easiest to keep that side a little bit impersonal, so it doesn't affect how people you're working with, feel towards you. Um, and it also makes everything clearer. Yeah, you don't have to worry about uh, any of the things that could become a personal problem later down the road, right? Like, can I work with this person now, even if we stop working? Because it's all set out very clearly in the contract,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing to discuss after that.
Mm-hmm. 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 And you actually had this situation quite recently with your long-term coach, Rustam Kasimjanov, who started recently working, it seems like, with Abdusattorov, and you discussed this relationship. I'm pretty sure he discussed this relationship as well, and the aftermath of this, let's say, separation. But do you feel like he
Okay, I
owes you
mean,
something in terms of not revealing openings? Are you not concerned about that? Like,
no, well, okay, I mean, for I don't know if I would use the words aftermath or separation. I think they
it
sound
sounds a bit dramatic, yeah. But
like okay. We worked for
you guys did work for a very long time.
we worked for basically 7 years. I would say we started working in 2014, and at that time it was just a few sessions.
Yeah.
It was right before the Sinkfield Cup. We started our first session, and we only started working full time in 2015. But from 2015 to 2021, mid 2021, we were working together. And I'm basically, Rustam told me in mid 2021 that he had very little motivation for chess and no longer wanted to work. And I was like, okay. I mean, what he like specifically told me is I can't work, and maybe at some point I would like to work again, but I don't know when that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him like, okay, well, if you don't want to work, I understand,
You mean work
but I
together
can't.
or work as a whole?
Well, he didn't really specify, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
to me, the way it sounded was he was kind of fed up with chess.
Got it.
He was a bit fed up with a lot of, I won't go into too much detail, but
Yeah.
one of the things he was tired of was cheating, which he saw in online tournaments and was upsetting him and me as well. So it was like, it was a shared concern.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't make him happy. One of the things which he mentioned to me openly was that he didn't like my approach to chess in 2020, how I lost motivation for many months, and that also meant that like we weren't working together online very much, although we did go to tournaments together quite a bit. So he made his kind of displeasure at that clear, that I had lost my motivation, and I think the other thing was just that the pandemic was I mean, the whole COVID thing and all the things that we went through were
I think
very
it
taxing on both of us.
destroyed the continuity of a lot of relationships and a lot of, especially chess relationships.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, it was very difficult, right? I mean, it wasn't fun that I was playing tournaments which could get canceled in the middle, or I had to go through these crazy hoops during tournaments and being tested and treated like a guinea pig. Wasn't exactly fun, I have to say, even though I did go through it just to be able to play certain tournaments, like specifically the candidates.
Yeah,
Also, Wijk
everybody.
twice I went through this, and Norway chess, and I was quarantining before events and sometimes during events, and it's none of it's fun. I mean, I understand, and I understood why he was kind of fed up. So he told me basically, I'm not interested in working anymore.
Yeah.
And I told him, okay, I mean, I understand that, but I'll have to start working with someone else, and it might make it more difficult for us to restart later.
Yeah.
So that was basically it. We didn't work again after that conversation.
Yeah.
we kept in touch a little bit for a short period of time. For example, he congratulated me when I qualified for the candidates, which I thought was nice, right? I mean,
Of course.
he had said some stuff in an interview that was like a little bit not extremely nice before that tournament, before I qualified for the candidates. And so I was surprised when he congratulated me. I was like, yeah, thanks. And in terms of us working with other people, obviously I can work with whoever I want. Like even if we had a contract, obviously the contract would give restrictions on the coach, not on the player.
Exactly. I don't think it's much about yourself, but rather about the person that works with you and has access to your preparation.
Yeah,
this is
because
from purely a technical perspective.
Sure. No, because like the things I know about Rustam as a chess coach, I can't use to damage him, right? Because he doesn't have opponents, but I have opponents. So if he knows something about my preparation approach, he can use that. I wouldn't, maybe damage is the wrong word, but he can use that against me if he's working with someone else, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's an extreme thing. Like just because you worked with me during a tournament doesn't mean that suddenly you have all the secrets to beat me, right? But it certainly is a help if he's preparing someone else. But we had basically a standard, like a gentleman's agreement. We didn't have complex contracts or anything. It was, you get paid for this. It was all agreed beforehand. You get paid for this. This is the system per day, bonuses, et cetera, depending on the tournament. And you provide work during the tournament. And if you want to work with someone else, then none of it's specified. But of course, yeah, the gentleman's agreement is that, yeah, you tell me if you're working with someone else, and hopefully it doesn't get in the middle of our work. Like I've worked with people who've worked with other people, and I've never really had an issue with that. But there has to be some sort of like, first of all, transparency, and also it can't ever be done maliciously, right? Like,
Yeah.
you should never go behind someone's back.
Yeah.
And if you follow those rules, I think it was all pretty clear. Now that Rustam has like, it feels like to me some animosity is a little bit of a mystery to me, because I don't like, if he wants to have like a friendly conversation, I have no problem with that, right? I would have no problem with a very cordial or even friendly relationship with him. But yeah, it seems like something about it was bitter for him. So he probably views it in a slightly bitter way, unfortunately. I think a lot of it was just circumstance, like working with someone during 2020 and 2021 wasn't easy, like this broke up. I mean, the whole 2020, 2021 thing broke up probably, tens of millions of relationships. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's
Not
not too
only just
surprising
relationships, of course.
that it broke up a chess partnership as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically it. But it's always complicated working with people because it's not just professional; it also becomes personal at some point.
No, absolutely. I mean, you have to be personable and you have to be open to a person that you work with for, so many weeks and months of your life, right? And you share so many intimate moments. I'm sure this is going to be taken out of context. This is going to be taken out of context.
Chris, you have to watch the words you're using. I mean, just intimate. Separation and aftermath. I mean,
yeah. Oh man, yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, that was definitely a fun discussion with pretty much everybody that we had. Both Jorden and Anish were very interesting to have on the podcast, and they brought a lot of interesting thoughts with them. Now, actually, yesterday it was revealed that Maurice Ashley, our good friend in St. Louis, retired, at least officially right now, from commentary. I don't know if that means he's only not going to give commentary for the St. Louis Chess Club. Maybe he's going to do something else with other people, but from his framing, it seems like he's not going to be doing any commentary for the foreseeable future. He's going to still be involved in a lot of other things, but still commentary was his main gig up to this point, and that's how he rose to prominence. My feelings about it is it's a loss for chess commentary in general. He was a person that I was definitely looking up to as I was coming up in the rankings of chess commentators, and I've been under, let's say, his wing at the St. Louis Chess Club. I've watched him closely, him, Yasser, Jen Shahadeh, and pretty much the team that was assembled at the St. Louis Chess Club for so many years, and it feels like a loss. At the same time, I understand his perspective, and interesting times for sure. What do you have to say about this announcement?
No, he's an undoubtedly great commentator.
One of the best.
Yeah, he brought a more of a sports angle to it, like the way that you would see traditional sports commentary, rather than what I view as like a very old-fashioned and rather boring approach to commentary, which is, two grandmasters discussing some lines that 99.9% of people have no chance of following or understanding. And they get very excited when they go deep into some variation, and everyone else is like, I don't really understand what's going on. And Maurice is bringing more of the inclusiveness that, everyone can enjoy. And I mean, we should be catering to the widest audience.
Yeah.
So like, he commentated a world championship match, right? Kasparov Anand in New York in 95.
In the 90s, yeah.
And
He's an OG. He's been
He's been around,
for a long time.
I mean, he's a great commentator, but from what I understood, he was already, like, I saw his tweet and it said regular gig as a chess commentator. Okay, maybe regular gig is pretty accurate, but he's been doing other stuff for a while. So I'm not surprised at all, because we know that he gives talks, for example. He gives talks to, let's say, to business people or to finance people about chess and how it can translate to other things.
Of chess and business, yeah.
And I think he did a TED talk. Would need a confirmation on that, but I think he did.
I think that was before 2020, 2021 when he.
Yeah, but he's been doing a lot of other things besides just pure chess commentating. So I'm not surprised. He did a Chessable course, I think.
Exactly, and this is what he was mentioning. I think he's still going to stay on the side of content creation, video courses, talks, things of that nature. He's not going to stop any of those. He's not going away from the chess world. He's just stopping commentary for the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, wish him success in whatever he pursues, but I'm sure he'll have it. He's good at many different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know one of the things that a lot of people, or some of his detractors, were saying that, oh, he's just reading engine lines and things of that nature. That's not the case. I mean, he's been around since the 90s. There was no Stockfish back in the 90s, and he was still bringing the energy with him. So yeah, he was definitely a staple of chess commentary as chess is becoming more and more popular, and we will definitely miss him in the commentary booth. I've had a lot of gigs with him. I remember vividly the US Championship that we did together. We had a lot of fun in the studio. So definitely one of the greats, and we wish him all the best in his next endeavors. So yeah, that's more or less it for this week's episode. I think we covered a lot of things, a lot of ground, a lot of interesting topics. Anything you want to add on, Fabi?
No, I think that we covered a lot, and this is already quite a long episode.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure a lot of our viewers will be tuning in tomorrow for the Champions Tour, which a lot of players will play, and I'll also be playing it.
You're playing that one?
Anish won't, as we found out, but
I think I will be playing that one as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't played in a long time, actually, especially not online. I played recently over the board. Even that wasn't as recent, but it feels recently, because before that I didn't play for 3 years. So I will be playing that one. Let's also talk about things that you guys can do to support us. First of all, we have a newly created Discord. It's been getting quite popular. You can actually chat with us directly. And Fabi, I've seen you quite a few times in the Discord. That's probably your most favorite app to socialize with viewers. Would you say so?
Well, it's the only, well, not the only way, but it's the main way where we can chat on a very informal basis with people who are watching the podcast.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we see your comments on YouTube. We see the other ways in which you interact. We get some emails sometimes, but if you want to have live interactions, chats, then Discord is the place to do it. So be sure to join there.
Get going, join the Discord, leave your comments in the comment section as well here on YouTube. Tell us what you thought about the interviews with Anish and Jorden. Tell us your views on the topics that we discussed. We also have a new clips channel. We will be posting regularly on that one, though it has been more inactive in the last couple of weeks because we were traveling. We do have a TikTok as well, so we're spreading our wings. We're all over the place, so any sort of support on those platforms is definitely greatly appreciated. But yeah, that was it. Good luck tomorrow, Fabi. And
thank you. Good luck to you too.
We will be chatting. Yeah, we will be chatting next week.
All right, sounds good.
You have a good one. Bye-bye. See you in the next video.